Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Eve Echoes. How have you guys been? I've been in a little vacation. Took somewhere around a week of vacation to basically enjoy the Easter holidays with my family. It's been a while since I posted anything, but we're back and we're scratching up for new content and asking the devs here and there for changes and for stuff that are about to arrive. Probably have something interesting planned for next week, and I'll tell you guys all about it in a moment. Meanwhile, during my vacation, I also managed to get the vaccine shot, for the coronavirus. And even though I had COVID like 3-4 weeks ago, but there have been some peculiar side effects. I mean, 2 days, the first day and the second day after the vaccine, I literally was feeling like so high. I don't know what, probably something else that was inside the vaccine that caused me to trip the hell out. I mean, I was jumping from one leg to another while looking at the window and wondering how's the weather outside. I also tried to get like the winter clothing back into the shelves and get out, like the summer clothing out. And my wife suddenly says, "Hey, why are you still unpacking the same closet over and over again?" And I was like, "Is this the same closet?" "Yeah, it is. You've been doing it for 30 minutes. And I was like, "Okay." Other than that, things have been pretty well. I've been logging into the game, doing some PvP, doing some random encounters here and there, but not much time spent overall on gaming because, as I mentioned, I was pretty busy with hanging out with my family. Now, about Eve Echoes content, well, there's an interesting point that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and that thing is that the developers are preparing to deploy the update. The update that is the balance patch that was on the public test server. Now, this is not confirmed, but I do suspect it might arrive next week. So we'll be continuing with the giveaway with the community question of the week until next week on Wednesday. Basically because the community question of the week was, do you think they will be fixing the balance update? And since our presumptions of balance update arriving on the next Wednesday, on the next downtime, we still have no information about it. It may arrive, it may not arrive, but I'm constantly communicating with the developers and I'm trying to get some info out of them, yet none so far. So we have no idea if anything was amended. By the looks of what they say and what they claim, the feedback was received and they did something. We don't know exactly what. And I'm highly anxious to see what exactly did they kept, what exactly did they pushed forward, and what did they abandon, or if they modified it in some way. People have been angry about, the destroyers still not being on par with all the other ships, and actually some of them getting a big nerf in terms of the interdictor destroyers, also the interdictor cruisers, plus a bunch of tech level 10 ships that, honestly, it just propagates the issue with the verticality in Eve Echoes, a thing that Eve is not supposed to be about. Feel free to check the previous videos that I did covering what exactly do I think and I suspect is the problem, the core of all the issues with the balance and with the ship trees, and how any balance update that might arrive is still intrinsically flawed because it builds up on a flawed structure. So, as I mentioned, community question of the week: do you think they will be fixing, or they will be doing anything about the balance update? Feel free to drop your comments below and let me know, and automatically get into the giveaway. We'll be announcing the winners next Wednesday. We also have for today a developers weekly Q&A, which covers 28th of April and 4th of May. There's a couple of questions here, but none of them are pretty relevant. I'm not judging anyone here, but I think that pretty much they choose the questions randomly just as we pick our winners with random.org. This is the only explanation because the questions themselves are not very good. I mean, I am certain that there's plenty of other people asking more serious questions, and more to the point and actually invested, questions that are invested into the game and the future of the game. But if they do pick them randomly, then that's why they never get picked, or some of them get picked. We've seen some good questions along the way. But let's cut the chit-chat and see what this weekly Developers Q&A has for us. Is there plans to buff the faction ships more? They are falling behind buffed new tech level 10 ships, which make them doesn't live up their expensive costs anymore. And the answer is overall faction ships still have an edge over ships, especially when it comes to defense. We'll closely monitor live data regarding the balance update between these to see if any changes are needed in our next balance update. Well, for starters, I think a lot of us, even the content creators, even the community, have pointed out that some of these faction ships will get stomped by the verticality, and it's going to be true. We've taken a look at the ship trees in the update balance on the public test server, and I think Benzi mentioned his opinion as well in his video. I think it was released 1 or 2 days ago. Bottom line, the frigates, the faction frigates, well, they're gonna suck. Basically because the interceptors, the tech level 10 interceptors, are just going to wipe the board clean. Well, let's say the interceptors are not way that overpowered over faction ships, but having a ship that just costs 100 or 200 million, which is half the price of a faction frigate, and have all the perks of an interceptor, like immunity from bubbles, very high speed, and basically, let's just take, like for the Slasher, which has more versatility and damage over the Dramiel, and it can even overpower the Dramiel and the Daredevil. I mean, those ships are pretty wrecked when those tech level 10 ships will arrive. Also, we can talk about the Succubus, as well as the Phantasm. It can fit shield field modules. Now, shield field modules will be receiving a nerf, which is kind of important. Now, the signature radius will be increased by 5,000%. So in terms of speed tanking, well, the Succubus using a shield field module will suck. Will probably get insta-shot because it will be easier to hit with missiles and even with turrets. So is this normal? Well, pretty much it ain't normal. And the Succubus and the Phantasm do have this perk. It's a roll bonus to fit these modules, and by nerfing those modules, they've rendered these ships useless in using those specific modules. Cruisers, I think, the faction cruisers are still okay, and the faction battleships are pretty much okay. The frigate ones are not, or at least they won't be once the update balance goes into live and everybody start reaching tech level 10 in a couple of months. We go over to the second question. Can you add NPC pirate resistance info? It will help new players to make it more easily to deal against them, I suspect the question was. We're currently looking into the best way to display this information. Please stay tuned for updates on this. Well, this will be a quality of life improvement, although if I remember exactly in EVE Online, this info is still not available. People usually calculate this based on, I don't know, various tests that they perform against the NPC to see exactly what are the resistances and resistance types. But in EVE Online, it's much more easier to test this because you can do specific damage using specific damage types. Because you have, guess what? You have ammo. Here in EVE Echoes, we do not have ammo, and pretty much the guns do a multitude of damage types, like the missiles dealing 25% across all damage types. How can you test which resistance is more buffed than the other? So it's pretty difficult to tell by ourselves. So yeah, this will be definitely an improvement on quality of life into assessing what exactly you need to deal against them in order to, I don't know, fit properly for PvE content. Moving over to question 3, please make an option for us to have specific battle settings for a specific ship. Example, for a brawler ship, we can have its battle settings to auto-orbit, while for snipers, it's off, etc. We will discuss this with the UI team to see if there's a potential way of implementing this without adversely affecting the current player experience. Now, this sounds interesting, but it's actually not. Why is that? Well, it's more likely that this will be dragged into mod in terms of how many stuff can you set, and if the options will be limited. If this gets implemented, then people will start screaming, oh, why do I have so little options? If it's going to be like you can do whatever you want, just imagine you can have multiple configurations of a stabber fleet issue. It can be a snipe fit using destroy cannons. It can be a brawler fit, a close range fit using autocannons. So how do you decide? I mean, do you set by default for that ship something, and whatever type of fit you put on, those settings will get to apply immediately? You need to remember it's just going to be another setting that you need to deal with, or yet another configuration that you need to save, just like fittings. We already have fittings. It's a pretty bunch of stuff. The fitting screen should get like a revamp or something, because it's pretty difficult if you have a multitude of fittings saved. It's hell on earth to scroll through them and to actually fit. Yeah, they can be ordered, they can be, but there's other areas that surely need some love and improvements. I would argue not to overcomplicate things. This can be set manually. You can always set your default orbit every time you just hop on another ship, you undock. The first thing you should be setting is the default orbit, the approach range, and to keep at range stuff, or to make sure that you don't enter an orbit while you hit orbit target. It's different from the auto orbit, by the way. It's not orbiting as soon as you lock and start shooting. No, it's something that you need to manually do, and it's something that you personally need to do, especially in PvP, because you don't want auto orbiting. You want to orbit either manually or set your default orbit and switch from various orbits depending on what you are fighting and what you are hunting. So all in all, we already have that. Adding another configuration, another thing to save these or to set these it can be a pretty much pain in the ass, and I'd rather not have it. Moving over to the last question, will we be able to activate both afterburners and micro warp drive at the same time in the future? This would be awesome. Signature penalty won't change, only add a little bit of speed. In New Eden, speed is critical. We will look into this further to see if any changes could be made in the future in a balanced way. Well, it's funny enough because they mentioned speed is critical, yet the destroyer's only got a little bit of speed. Okay, let's not be judgmental. But to answer the question, no. This is not something we want. This is not something that needs to be done at all under any circumstances. This is because the propulsion modules, basically in terms of, let's say, EVE science, propulsion modules interact with your engines on board of your ship. So the afterburner and the micro warp drive are different types of devices that interact with your ship's engines, and it's okay to have only one of them running at any given time, not both of them, because that will cause a big problem. I don't know, and your ship engines might go boom. But honestly, this is not okay in terms of balance. You can fit on your ship dual prop. There's dual prop fits for many types of ships, like the interceptors or even the Cinnabal. Dual prop is a good thing, but dual prop means you fit them for a purpose. You sacrifice one low slot, like a slot that could be used for tanking or some other stuff, to fit an afterburner and a micro warp drive. Why is that? Because, well, if you are running the micro warp drive, you want to get close to the target, and you might want to shut it down and start the afterburner once you get in range, and you open up your guns and you keep them in web and scram and whatever. And why do you switch to afterburner? Well, basically because switching off the micro warp drive reduces your signature radius, making it that you are more difficult to hit. If you keep your micro warp drive orbiting tightly, even though your speed is big, it overcompensates because of your signature radius, and you can still get hit with plenty of damage. So the afterburner fixes that. Also, in the case of interceptors, having a micro warp drive and an afterburner is good, because let's say you get in range, you put a scram, you're about to die, you need to get the hell out of there because the fleet already arrived and they've tackled your target pretty much everyone is having like a disruptor or scrambler on it, and you need to get out of there. Your job was done. Your job was to tackle somebody. You did. Now you need to get the hell out of there. So you're being scrammed because you were the first target that landed on him, and you managed to tackle him, and he tackled you back because he actually wants you dead so he can get out of there. Well, guess what? Once the fleet arrives, he doesn't care. He won't switch the tackle on somebody else. No, he'll keep the tackle on you because at least he can get one kill. It's the one that showed up, and he knows he can get you. Now, if your micro warp drive is disabled because you've been scrammed by a warp scrambler, which cuts down your MVD, this is a moment when you open up the afterburner, because that one is not affected by the scrambler. Sure, it is affected by the web, but even with an afterburner, you can still get out of point range and get the hell out of there. So dual prop fits, in propulsion, dual propulsion module fits have their own purpose, and they're pretty good. But having them being activated both at the same time, not in a million years. Never. This should never be implemented at all, because it's just going to cause problems. People are just going to spam these, and it's going to make things really unbalanced. It's not how it's supposed to be at all. I know this is not Evil Line, but yeah, in Evil Line you cannot activate both modules. That's the bottom rule. Not saying every rule should apply to Eve Echoes as well, but this is an important rule, and it's something that we must abide to. Only one propulsion module should be active at any given time. So, as I mentioned, I'm pretty excited to see if the balance update will be hitting next week on the next downtime on Wednesday, and I'm highly curious to see if they actually did any changes at all, because we'll be covering this, and that's why I encourage you all to write your opinion if you think that the balance update will be modified or not. That's the community question of the week. Leave a comment below and let me know. That's it for today. Hope you guys learned something. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.